The recent wave of people experiencing crashes on startup with their Steam Deck has reached almost a frenzy on Reddit, and it's time for all of us to have a very frank discussion about this useful but potentially problematic tool.
Let's go into the Bungalow world.
Let's start by talking about what exactly Decky Loader is. It's a hack. It's something injected into the operating system that is not approved by Valve. As such, Valve will make no concessions to making sure it continues to work after an update. Now, some people want to call it a mod, but that's not exactly true in my opinion. A mod typically works within a predefined area provided by the creator of the game or tool in question. When a game allows for mods, updates to the game respect that mod ecosystem, and your game isn't going to typically just stop working after an update. So, Decky Loader's a hack. Okay. The plugins that it uses are hacks that sit on top of that hack. These plugins vary in functionality. Some simply allow easy access to console commands or similar tools, while others allow you to completely change the way the Deck UI looks and/or behaves. Generally speaking, Decky is stable. Generally speaking, plugins are stable. Generally, recovery is pretty easy, but sometimes it isn't. Now that we have a baseline to discuss, let's talk about why we're having this discussion at all. I personally don't use Decky Loader anymore. That's why you don't see any new videos about it, why I don't talk about it. Like many of you, I got tired of it just magically disappearing when I decided I wanted to actually use it. And to be fair, there really aren't any plugins I need. I have ways of doing what I needed them for that simply don't require it. But I know there's a huge fan base of Decky out there, and if you're going to continue to use it and or recommend it to others, I think you need to take on some responsibility for understanding what it does and how to fix it when, not if, it breaks next time. My first recommendation is to create a recovery boot drive and make sure it works. Don't just burn a flash drive, toss it in a drawer. Make sure it actually boots to recovery desktop. With this, you can recover from pretty much any issue that is caused by Decky and its plugins. To be honest, you should have one of these anyway, and not just for Decky remediations. Second, you should know what to do if your deck suddenly stops booting and you do not have access to continuing to boot without Decky running. This is pretty rare, but it shouldn't be something you look up after the fact. If you're using something that is knowingly unstable in certain situations, you really should know ahead of time how to recover from the failure. Finally, if you're someone that uses plugins that alter the way your deck looks, you need to be cognizant that these plugins are the most fragile and most likely to cause you issues. Power Tools doesn't cause these issues, but CSS Loader most certainly does. You need to understand what plugins are more likely to tank your system than others and be prepared to handle a failure in case of an emergency. I realize that the solution to these problems is typically very quick and very easy, provided you know what you're doing, right? But we are all clear that there are seasoned people using the Steam Deck, and then there are new folks that barely know their way around, but are told day one, install Decky Loader. These people are confused and often worried about what happens when their Steam Deck boots to a screen like this. They have no idea how to fix it. Worse yet, they're unclear about the risks they are taking on by installing this tool to begin with. Now, feel free to correct me in the comments below. I know this is an unpopular topic, but I feel we're all responsible for being forthright about the tools, hacks, and mods that we recommend to others. For many, this is their first journey into a PC, Linux, or any sort of unwalled garden in general. They're excited to make the most of it and finding those day one posts saying Decky Loader will change your lives, but without also saying one day your deck may not boot, so take a bit of knowledge and precautions on the way. We can be more responsible than that as a community. Include your recommendations with a warning. Help others become educated on not only the rewards of Decky Loader, but also the risks. Maybe help them understand that plugins come and go, support isn't guaranteed, and something that works today may not work tomorrow or even ever again. Give these folks all the data. Let them decide if they're willing to incur the risk for the reward. It will help our community greatly and maybe avoid the rash of Reddit posts the day of big updates. If you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, hit the bell. You guys know what to do. I'm Shane R. Monroe. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. We'll see you next time.